I'm David Michelson, and this video is an overview of the Syriaca.org data model. The Syriaca.org data model is a data design for modeling and tracking historical entities. These are concepts such as places, persons, literary works, manuscripts, bibliography, keywords, the items shown here. And for each of these items, the goal of Syriaca is to produce a URI, or Uniform Resource Identifier. In fact, there are 7 core entities for which Syriaca.org produces URIs, or unique identifiers. Places, such as the city of Edessa; persons, such as the author Ephraim the Syrian; literary works, such as the life of Abraham Kiduniah by Ephraim; bibliographic items, or modern publications, such as Robert Murray's monograph, Symbols of Church and Kingdom; thematic subject headings, or keywords, such as the concept of liturgy; manuscripts, such as British Library Additional 12-178; and material artifacts. For each of these categories of entity, for individual items within the category, Syriaca.org mints a URI of the following format: Syriaca.org / the type of entity, in this case place, /78, a unique numeric identifier. Or for Ephraim the Syrian, Syriaca.org /person /13, etc. As you can see here, we have working URI systems for the first 5 entities, and the systems for subject heading, manuscripts, and material artifacts are still under development. Now, what can we do with this data model? To return to the diagram with which we began, we can see that having these unique identifiers allows us to model and trace historical relationships. Let's take an example of a person, Tomais of Nisibis. This is an author. She's mentioned in a work, Febronia of Nisibis, a saint's life, a martyr act, and the act mentions her as the author of the work. So we have a URI for the work, a URI for the author, and we can model that relationship. Of course, the work also occurs in particular manuscripts, so we can model that relationship. The person and the work relate to a particular place, Nisibis. There's modern bibliography, such as Sebastian Brock and Susan Harvey's Holy Women of the Syrian Orient, which includes an English translation, which are about the person. And then finally, there are thematic keywords, which can be assigned. So someone searching for the keyword martyrdom might find that the work Holy Women of the Syrian Orient has been tagged with that keyword, or the particular text Febronia of Nisibis. This data model can be oriented in any direction, as shown here. If we look at this case, we can move the work Febronia of Nisibis to the center of our graph, and then we can see that this work has a relation to a place, has a relation to a manuscript, has a relation to a person, and continues to have the same relation to the keyword or martyrdom. And of course, this graph can grow. So if we wanted to focus on particular persons or how particular works might be related to a place, we could put the place Nisibis in the front. There we can see we have multiple persons: Febronia of Nisibis, Tomais of Nisibis, the work, Febronia of Nisibis, the manuscript which mentions Nisibis, but also other persons and works. So Ephraim the Syrian, an author associated with Nisibis, and one of his works, hymn number 1 of the Nisibene hymns, also related to Nisibis, and any number of bibliographic items. In fact, the Syriaca.org data model would allow one to focus on any particular entity. So if we focus just on the work Febronia of Nisibis, we can see all of the people mentioned in the work. So Febronia, Tomais, the Emperor Diocletian. This is documented through a series of sourcing. So the bibliographic items by Brock and Harvey also can be cited as the source for each of these pieces of information. Ultimately, this graph can be expanded to the entire Syriaca.org dataset. It's not particularly helpful to view the entire dataset, but here's an example of even just a portion of the dataset. You can see the relationships that can be made into a graph in a certain sense are almost infinite. If we were to zoom in further, you can see that then there are particular relationships between individual URIs. Hopefully that gives you a brief sense of what's possible with the URI-oriented linked data or knowledge graph produced by Syriaca.org.